60,000 for phase 1 and 2, or 60,000 each phase?
For 1 and 2.
Okay. Well, thank you for that information. That's helpful. So would it be safe to say that once we're done our construction phase and they're out of the building, the lights will
It'll be
likely be off?
It'll be solely run on FMX requests at that point for usage, after hour usage. So our facility group, they have FMX requests to have lights on or doors open or air conditioning running. They would review that and approve that and have subsequent facilities.
So
usage.
hopefully we can see that electric bill of $27,000 come down.
I will say Victor will be very strong advocate to have all lights off and all
That would be
HVAC.
wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for answering.
Dr. Moyer, under your business, do you want to cover item A?
Yeah, I could do that. Section 712.1 of the Sunshine Act, there's some minor changes there for items that are not, where we're not allocating any money towards, or we're not obligating ourselves to any contractual agreements. What the legislature is saying there, if there are some things that are of a timely manner that we want to get approved without having it advertised to the public well in advance and so on, we as a board are allowed to do that. I anticipate that being rare, if ever, happening for us, but it does allow us some degree of flexibility, if that's helpful. Carrie, did I miss anything on that? I know you're familiar with it as well.
I think Judy read up on it too. I think that covers it, really.
Good job.
Yeah.
Any other new business?
I do, I have a couple. So I was wondering, with our surplus, if we could put something for field trips. I've been asking about field trips for about 6 years now. If we could have, I know like the elementary school does fundraisers, and I'm sure they're gonna keep doing their fundraisers, but I think that we should, I mean, even if it's $10,000 a year, if we could add to field trips. And then I also have a question for Dr. Naylor. The PTO used to send out a form at the beginning of the school year for parents to sign up for PTO. But I think currently they're not doing that because it's a lot of email entry. Is that, if in Sapphire, when we set up a student or the new school year starts, could we add something about, would you like to join PTO in there and collect emails for the PTO, or do we want to keep that separate?
I think we could look into something like that.
Okay. Because, I mean, it would be nice if they had, like, everybody that wanted to join, because I don't think they did the form this year. But those are my two things, field trips and the PTO. Capture email.
Nick, can I indulge Tom for a second? If you don't mind. Tom, on the ACTI fund, I'm looking at a sheet that I picked up early this year, where when we voted for ACTI, the 1% tax increase in 24-25, we said we're dedicating $180,000 a year towards the ACTI assigned ACTI authority category. I'm looking at it right here. It says 180,000. Okay. Understandably, I understand you want to move 600,000 from the transportation, which is a good idea, back over to ACTI. But my problem is we should be sitting at 780, and that's not even the 180 we got this year, which should make it 960. So why are we losing $80,000 to start off with? And when do you expect the other 180,000? Because I've noticed we've collected almost 97.1% of our property taxes already to this date. I would think that 180,000 would be sitting in the ACTI sign fund already, so we should be seeing 960,000 in there.
Like I explained at FBS, that fund balance is allocated, so that 180 is part of that 600,000. I think the misconception is that 600,000 for transportation went one for one to ACTI. So in that 180 that we had for ACTI authority, I think Dr. Moyer and I discussed is the land sale purchase is more pertinent and would facilitate the authority to go out to debt service. So we're going to allocate to the land purchase, and that's also subsequently the authority purchase. So in that 600,000 is the 180, and then that we've set aside prior year. So that's where that kind of came into play. So it just so happened that 600,000 for transportation came out, it came into the pot of fund balance, and then we got to reallocate that internally to the best fit.
So if you had 600,000 in transportation, and you had 180,000 over here in ACTI, where is the 180,000 missing out of the 600,000 that was in transportation? Where is that at? Because you're only moving a total of 600,000.
If we want for conceptual purposes, we'll put 180 in a assigned ACTI fund, and we'll shorten the 600,000 for the land purchase down.
Okay, so you're making a separate category then?
I'm combining two categories into one for ACTI. I just designated that initially to be for land, and then it would subsequently roll into a debt service authority. It's, the ACTI project's one and the same, we're still designating the money.
How much money did you move into that category?
It is,
From the transportation?
I would say transportation went back into the general fund as whole, and then we reallocated as.
Not all of it. I mean, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but you didn't reallocate all the 600,000, because that would have been 780,000 on paper.
Can you finish the answer?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so every year, as I discussed, is fund balance gets reallocated back in, and then we reassign it as administration, and the board gives us a acknowledgement that that's also what they see as future projects. We know that healthcare, since we're self-funded, we need that 1.5. Tech reserve, I believe we have that pretty much allocated towards refreshing of technology use. The other variable ones are middle school, high school. That could be, we had that allocated, so the remainder is up for reallocation to new projects.
So in the fund before this, there was 180,000.
Correct.
And then, so you took, you put the transportation back in the general fund, and then from the general fund, you put 420,000 towards ACTI to make an even 600.
Correct, and then the remainder went towards future athletic purchase. If we want to reallocate that to another fashion, we discussed that, because we can change any of those. The three we don't want to change that are mandatory or are pre-allocated, so to speak, in the assigned order: technology, healthcare, and middle school, high school. The remainders can be mixed and matched in any portions and any amounts that the board wishes.
Thanks, I think you answered the question.
So the 180,000 we just picked up this year,
Was part of the reallocation back in.
so,
And every year we reallocate the surplus back in.
yeah, but I would see 360,000, forget the 600,000, I should have seen 360,000 alone in there.
For visual purposes, we can put a separate category and split the land, 360 towards authority and the remainder towards land.
What would
That-
be the remainder towards land, then, if you did do that?
The 600,000, or we could remove
Okay.
some from the future athletic purpose.
So we would still see, what I'm saying is, for visual purposes.
What he's saying is that he didn't move all of the 600,000, so.
No, I know that. I'm asking him a different question.
We'll reframe it. So if you look at that, if you see the assigned portion,
Mhm.
that number can be reassigned in any fashion possible. The board has the ability to reassign that.
Correct.
So
But, and
if
not
you-
interrupting you.
If we want to visually see it into separate categories for each ACTI, I can have that visually shown, and we can reallocate that. For auditing purposes and for ease of round numbers and bucket items, we put that into one item. Instead of having 3 or 4 ACTIs that then we have to manage, it's all towards the same project, all towards the same end goal. It's all the district's money that's gonna have to go there. So for me, for ease, it all gets accumulated into one.
So what really happened was, you had the 180, okay, so then out of to the general fund, you put the next year's 180 in there, and then you've got 360. And then you put out of the transportation, all the other money that got reassigned back to the general fund, you reassigned 240 and put that into that bucket as well.
Essentially, so, yeah, so out of the,
And so the ACTI land is sitting at even 600, and that's where we're at.
Well, an even 7. The reason I ask, and the only reason I ask, is because aesthetic-wise, when people were looking at these documents and they were told the tax increase goes to the ACTI authority, they should be seeing $180,000 accrue every year, regardless of what you moved out of transportation. That's my only question, because it gets confusing when it somehow gets commingled, and then when you go back to the taxpayer, you say, well, look, you were paying 1% every year because we're pre-funding the mortgage, as you called it, for ACTI. I would be able to say to them, look, there's $360,000 sitting there right now. We just moved some over from transportation, but the $360 is there. You get my point?
And then at some point, it's gonna turn into an expense, and it'll come off of that fund.
Correct.
So
But that may be 5 years, 6 years down the road. We don't even know.
that's why we have the ACTI land, because we believe as a district that will be the first.
First thing to come.
So we've restructured that internally to address that. Like I said, Dr. Moore and I talked about that. That's what we felt was the best to present and to move forward.
Is there any other new business?
I have one question. So what is our current total of money we have set aside for ACTI? Do we have that?
It would be the $700,000 was presented to that. Yes.
So is there any way that moving forward, that we'll be able to make sure that that 700 stays assigned or designated for ACTI? And then we can still build on that each year and put in the 1% from the taxes, which would be 180,000?
That's eligible for discussion every FPS.
It's up to the board.
Every November when I bring the allocation of funds before the
It's
FPS.
up to the board every year, but that fund is probably going to be depleted when there's a land purchase.
Well, obviously, yeah, obviously.
So,
But my concern is, what I'm hearing, and this is not just tonight, but previous board meetings, and committee meetings, what's proposed to us in documents constantly changes in regards to ACTI. And here's my challenge with ACTI. ACTI is not just a building, it's not just a land purchase, it's actually our students, because our students go, I know it's not just all ours, but a lot of our kids go to ACTI. And I know you guys feel the same way. I know there's a lot of support for ACTI on this board, including myself. I just want to make sure, moving forward, we're going to be able to keep adding to it and not taking away from it. Not purchasing land, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking adding money towards the fund for ACTI.
and I think that the change that you've seen in the documents is that we are adding even more than we intended, because we're allocating some of the surplus or the unused money from other accounts to ACTI. So we're doing even more to add to the ACTI fund. We didn't take anything away that was entitled, that was supposed to go there.
Okay,
I'll
whatever
say,
you want to
once
say.
Well,
ACTI.
that's the truth.
I have documents that don't say that.
How much were we
That's
supposed to have there? Because we said we were gonna put aside $180,000 a year, and now we're putting more in through this allocation of the surplus that brings us up to $700,000.
So we actually had, we actually had a column just for ACTI. Apparently, we don't have that now. Well, I don't know, but maybe I should ask Mr. Schubert.
Instead of having two columns, we consolidated it into the concept. For ease of the board to understand, there's a designated ACTI fund balance. I combined it into one. I can easily separate the two and say one for authority and one for land purchase, because I think that's the conversation we've received, is that's the steps they're gonna take. And whether they separate the two or they do it all in one, that is yet to be determined. So I felt the need to just combine them into one until we hear further from the JOC and ACTI what their direction is. So we'll keep accumulating it, and at some point, it'll turn to a regular budgeted expense and no longer a fund balance. And then the board will no longer see it on a fund balance report. It'll be in the yearly budget, annual budget approval. And we can have discussions about what that looks like every April when ACTI presents their budget, and then we subsequently add that to ours.
So for the record, $360,000 that we collect from taxes is in there, and you only moved $340,000 to make it 700 out of the 600,000. That's my math. So when you say it, you should say we moved 340,000. We already had 360. That would make things more clear. and then we were sitting at 700 then. Yeah, so, because of what the confusing part is, people were wondering where the 80,000 went, because it's not equaling out. So I get it, so 360,000 sitting there, and you moved 340 of the 600,000, you didn't move the whole 600,000, you just moved 340 of it. You allocated it over.
Like I said, the remaining fund balance went back in, we
Mhm.
looked at it, we addressed that we wanted to put more towards ACTI. For rounding and ease of purposes, we picked 700,000 and 750,
Mhm.
and the remainder went to unassigned to keep us close to the 8%. That was the logic behind it. It's nice that we can change to have more exact numbers and different allocations.
And you mentioned the 750, are you talking about the track and field?
Correct, because that was part of the 10-year capital project plan to address the next big project, which was the track expansion that we talked during the feasibility study. That's the next most impacted and sizable cost.
And one more question, do we have any money backing up our special education? Because that, as we know, was not increased this year, and I'm almost certain it's probably increasing here.
We look at that every year during normal budgeting practices. We don't generally put towards fund balance towards those recurring events such as special education. We look at that, we work with the IU on cost and rates. The federal government supports that, and the state supports that. So we would internally do that through a budgeting process, not necessarily through fund balance.
Well, I was specifically talking about the autism class, because we have to keep funding, we have 8 students in there.
I would
That's a
say,
budget item.
I would say when the budget comes up,
Okay,
we would address how we're going to fund that moving forward.
because that's very important.
So we've budgeted for anything that's needed for special education. We're not just like not doing things for special education.
Well, I think, in my defense, the autism class was separate, because we took that on different funds, but we still have to keep paying it.
So we utilize unassigned funds, unassigned fund balance to jumpstart that classroom.
Mhm.
If the board wants to budget for that and throw that in, that'll be a discussion, and we'll review that on what that.
Because that was something that came up late into the budgeting
Correct.
process that we had to count.
Correct.
So this year, we're gonna have to go whole, we knew that this is there, and so they're gonna work that into the budget.
Okay,
And we'll discuss the revenue options to support any of the other items.
okay.
Any other new business?
Yes, I have 2 things. One, just a reminder to the board that this is our voting meeting. Last week was when we should have been asking the questions. No questions were asked, really. Second, we're supposed to be here for the students. These meetings aren't to be personal agendas or personal attacks. Most of us that are sitting up here that ran for school board, I'm saying most, not all, ran for the students. The majority, if I say, didn't run to sit here and be lied about, defamed, or additionally, not only feared for the safety of their family, but themselves. From fellow board members and some community members. The board is up here at this U table. The administration, if we need to ask questions, is here. We're not looking to the community for suggestions and things to be saying while we're sitting up here at the table. I've seen it happen. It's getting old, it's not acceptable, and the ugliness needs to stop. Additionally, I do want to thank the board, the administration that's here, and those on the board who are cooperating for the long hours and the resources that we and you all put into these meetings. Please know that the opinion of 1 or 2 of the board members that don't respect you, administration, aren't the majority of this board's opinion. So I encourage those of you who are doing this, who are sitting here and out there, to take what Mrs. Becker had to say, her words, meditate on them, and start acting appropriately. We have a very important position that we are seeking right now, and that's the superintendent search. So it's imperative that students are the priority and the reason always.
Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved, Janelle Ressler.
Second, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those say no, we're adjourned.
Hypocrisy at its finest.